Hey everybody, welcome to True Confessions of a Car Guy. My name's Gavin. I decided to do this because I've been in the car business a little over 40 years. And as I've been going through all those 40 years, I'm not proud of this fact, but I've worked at 49 different dealers. Over those 40 plus years, I have seen some of the craziest stuff happen. Good, bad, the ugly, you name it. I've worked with some real characters, and I thought it would be, and I know a lot of you car guys and gals have always said this, there should be a sitcom about the car business. There have been a couple close to it, but a real sitcom, because it's nothing like any other business, I believe, that exists. So I figured, what's the next best thing? Let's do a podcast. I'm going to do a lot of the truth of what happened in the car business. And this isn't about making deals and how we made money on somebody. This is about when it was really fun to be in the car business. I look at it and go, I got some real bad news. I'm going to go to my manager right now, but I think he's going to say $500 because your car's on fire out there. Just like that. This guy went apeshit crazy. But if I would have stayed longer, it would have killed me because all we did was party. It was just a nonstop party. The car business is a pretty, let's just say we're a playful crowd. We like to enjoy life. They all have toys. They all have nice watches. They all have nice houses, and they all like to go out. So, I don't know if I could use that one.
No,
but that was so funny.
No, that
one won't go.
They threw keys on top of roofs. They took titles and burned them. They did all kinds of crazy stuff. We've created our own monster. We any problem that the car business has, we've created it. But we had a fun time getting there.
And all you car guys and gals who are out there who got stories like mine, you want to send them in to me, I'd be more than happy to read them or have you on the show. Send it to confessionsofacarguy@gmail.com and we'll all laugh. that really happened.
Welcome everybody to True Confessions of a Car Guy. Welcome to our latest episode. Alongside me in studio is our host, as you guys know, John, and we have a very special guest. We have Lane Campbell, who is the CEO of Now Is Late, and also Zenzio. Thank you for joining us today, Lane.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Lane, thank you for coming on. I was talking to Badgie last week, and on the show we were talking about, I think we're like at a pinnacle in the world as far as how AI is hitting everything. It's like one of the most important things happening in I don't know how long, is AI. But everybody I'm talking to, I make it a point that when I talk about the car business, I only want to talk to somebody who's been in the fucking car business. So I don't like I hear all these people say, well, I'm going to NADA, I'm going to find this. Well, I don't know if I talked to you about this or when I was in the car business, NADA was not where I found what I was going to do. It wasn't that weak, because if I was just doing that, it was a big problem, because you better do a lot of research. So I was talking to Badger. I said, with AI the way it is, I'd rather have an expert. So you're here. You're the co-founder and I don't remember president, whatever, of Zenzio, right? And then you're the president and owner of Now Is Late?
Yeah, I'm the founder of Now Is Late. Now Is Late is just the consultancy side, which answers the question of which product I should buy and why, and whether or not that the question is that your AI plan is a product or an actual plan, so that you know whether or not that you have something that you want to achieve with your dealership, your dealer group, your processes, that is not vendor dependent. And even though I am a software and an AI vendor. We can get into how that story happened, it's important for your viewers and everybody else in the business to understand that AI isn't a fad. It's never going to go away. It's never going to be worse than it is today. And in my opinion, to echo what you said, it is without question the most important sociological and technological change in our lifetime.
So I want to get into two things you just said. One is I want to go all the way back to how you started, because I'm so intrigued. 'Cause I always tell everybody I'm dumb as shit. I'm good at 5 things. It used to be 4, now it's 5. I'm a good husband. I'm a good father. I'm a good car guy, and I'm a good grandfather. And I'm doing okay at the podcast now. But the other thing is AI being around. Today happens. My wife and I we went to. I don't eat out a lot because I just don't. And we went to Fuddruckers because we have one in Illinois, and we didn't know they had them out here. So I had a Fuddruckers. I noticed on the receipt, there's the last 4 of my social or my credit card. So she said, "You want the receipt?" And I looked at it, and her name was on it. In the last 4, I was like, just give it to me. I'm thinking to myself, on my report, my credit report, the first 4 is on of that thing. So I punched in the ChatGPT or whoever I got, whatever their names are. I got so many because of car and the phone. I said, "How long would it take you to figure out a 12-digit credit card number having the first 4 and the last 4?" It said 1 to 3 minutes. So that's pretty incredible. AI is here to stay, and it works a lot faster than us. But let's start with you. How long ago did you get into the car business before AI was around? When did it all start? What brought you there, and what your background was that brought you there?
I like a lot of other people, fell backwards into the car business by accident. The story is that out of high school, I got accepted to a very prestigious acting school in New York City. It was right there in the weird spot that you couldn't get student loans for it because my mom just made just enough money, and that school didn't have a lot of the credits and things that were important to be able to afford something like that. Well, I was too young, dumb, and stupid to know that before I tried to get accepted. And then they accepted me, and I had to figure out what to do next. Well, that actually took 5 years to get there, and I had to sell books door to door for 2 summers, 12 hours a day for 12 weeks to get there. And then when I got there, I realized the first life lesson: just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're supposed to do it for a living. And I actually bailed after 6 months. Stayed in New York for quite a long time. But by the time I ended up back home, which is another story for another podcast, I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, I didn't know what to do. And I opened up the paper one day, still remember exactly where I was, and I saw, hey, we teach people with no sales experience to sell cars. And I'm like, well, man, let me tell you something about door-to-door sales. If you can do that by yourself for 24 weeks straight, I figured maybe I had a shot. And that's how I got the job. Started selling cars in 95. 8 months later, they were dumb enough to make me a desk manager. Can you believe that? I swear, guys, I didn't even know how to really read a credit report at that time.
Well, it's funny. I always say it in the car business. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm really not. But same thing. I was a salesman for X amount of time, and all of a sudden I'm a manager. And the one thing that I do, and it sounds like you do, is you show up to work every day and you do what you're told, and nobody's going to outwork you. So in the car business, you can get promoted and make more money without. My wife's a dentist, so nobody's going to let me go in and perform oral surgery today. Nobody's going to let me trial a case. Nobody's going to let me go to perform heart surgery, but I could make that kind of money in the car business. So it sounds like you fell into that. So you get into the car business, you become a desk manager. What year is this now?
This is I got in the business in February of 95, and then late October, something like that. I was it was it was time to go to the desk, and it happens in battlefield promotions, right? All of a sudden, I was a top salesperson. I wanted to be, move up into a closer position, this kind of thing. And one day, a desk manager blew out. It happens.
Yep.
The GM came. He came up to me and he says, "Well, you always wanted to be a manager. Hop up on the tower. Don't let anyone go without giving them a price, and make sure you work every deal as hard as you can. I'll be in my office. Slam." That was the desk manager training.
So there's no AI at this time. Nobody's even talking about it. Nobody's even talking about it.
The internet wasn't even probably just an
it was really just kind of creepy.
It's just starting. I think you have Auto Trader might have been around.
Maybe.
And I think they had the trade-in marketplace back then. You didn't have, like, you have KBB buying centers. You had just trade-in marketplace, or maybe it might not even been called that. It had a different name. My brain sucks, so it doesn't go far back that far. But anyhow, so you're now you're a desk manager. How did you learn everything you know now to develop this AI? I know your partner, Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah. So I guess my brain's not that bad. Andrew, was he the catalyst to that, or were you the catalyst, or just a combined effort? He knows a lot about it, or you both know the same? How does that happen to a car guy who all of a sudden becomes, you're an AI expert to me, and I think to a lot of people? So
thank you for that. And like everything, guys, it happens one step at a time. And it really comes down to being more curious and never wanting to be comfortable. I didn't come from any background, any money. Obviously, I blew my college years on chasing the dream to go to New York City. But I always had this competitive drive. And like you said earlier, no one's going to outwork you, right? That was my mantra. I figured that I had everything it took in order to go as far as I wanted to, especially in sales. And that if I got beat, then I was going to be outworked. And that was my number one driver. That actually led to everything that's led me to you today. I just have this little bell goes off in my head when I feel like I'm being lazy. And another bell that goes off in my head when I go, wait a second, what's that? And self-directed learning. My grandmother, bless her heart, rest her soul, was a Bible-thumping Sunday school teacher, taught English at Fort Jackson on the Army base there in Columbia, South Carolina. I can still remember when I was 6, I asked her a question. Hey, what does bookworm mean? And she said, well, you can find out. There's a dictionary right there. And once she connected those two, that I could actually find a resource in order to teach myself something, that's the reason why we've met today. And fast forward to AI, there's nothing holding back anyone from learning anything that they want to do by learning how to use AI and the right time, the right way, and to ask what AI what. It all starts with, I wonder, I wonder.
So I'm going to go back to exactly how I met you. 2023, I think, or 2022, 2023.
Just 23.
2023. I'm talking to my dealers, and at the time I'm a PM, which is a performance manager for V Auto. And back then, that was like a Navy SEAL. Today, at Cox, everybody's a performance manager. It's like, I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. Every division calls them some performance manager. But I can remember going to school at V Auto and being in a room with 7 guys for the first time ever in my life that I would say could probably better than me. The guys were good, and I'm pretty good at the car business. But anyhow, I'm having these meetings with my car dealers, and I'm saying, hey, listen, we're in a time and place that I believe whoever's the most transparent is going to win this battle going forward. So I get introduced to, I'm getting all these questions about, well, how do we become more transparent? We can't get to our customers fast enough. I'm at the time, I'm also pushing service, that you got to sell, you got to buy cars out of service, or you're not going to survive, because they're not going to be cars at the auction. They're not going to pay the fees they pay, et cetera, et cetera. And guess what? There are no cars at the auction.
But a guy comes up to me who I know and we both love dearly and says, I got a guy who's got this AI product and it's out at Fitzgerald and you ought to test it. So I go on to Fitzgerald, Hyundai, and Clearwater, and I start asking the dumbest shit questions possible to the ASA, it's called, right? ASA?
Yeah, ISA, AISA stands for AI.
Yeah. So I start asking the dumbest shit questions, and it's answering me back as best as it, but it's keeping me. It's keeping me where I'm not like leaving. It's giving me alternatives. It keeps asking me the right question. How about your name? How about your phone number? How can I get a hold of you? I don't have this, but I got this. And then I call you up. Because he said, this is the guy who invented all this. And I'm like, and he's a car guy? He goes, yeah, he was a car. Because, again, if you're not in the car business, you really don't understand how all this goes. You can tell me you do. You can tell me, and I'll listen. And you may know some of it. You don't know the whole fucking picture. You know the whole picture because you sat there behind the desk. You've done, like you said, you've desked the deal. You've TO'd the customer. So how do you go about building it's Zenzio, but it's ASA. How do you build ASA? How long does this take?
Oh, great question. So it all started when I had a previous company in like 09, 2010, into which that I realized that reviews were going to be widely adopted everywhere in the business. That at the time, it was only Dealer Rater, and people treated Dealer Rater like vampires feel about garlic, right? They had that weird business model into which that they did all this marketing to get angry people to say something about you so that you could get charge a dealer to say something back. Interesting model. And so I recognized that because of the internet and because that people were going to continue to shop more digitally, that dealers were going to need to take an offensive and assertive and initiatives on reviews. I did that and did really well with it as a solopreneur. The guy that built the software that I was selling is Andrew, my partner, chief technology officer for Zenzio. So that's how I met Andrew. Right. Okay. Then I shut down the software company to adopt a little girl. She's now 14 and a half. Hey. And got in a lot of debt. Turns out that, adopting a child is a very, very expensive endeavor. Turned out to be the best investment I ever made. Thank God I did. Made me a very different person. Well, fast forward, like you said, in Fitzgerald, I love the place, but I planned to go back into software. But John, they kept promoting me, right? I kid you not that I walked in one day and they told me, I was used car director for all 4 stores in Florida at this time. I walked in one day and the current GM said, hey, we got to go talk to Bob. And then literally 30 minutes later, I was told that I was the general sales manager for Hyundai and Genesis. With Genesis at that.
That's how it happens.
Yeah. And I said, well, who's going to be my used car director? And they said, you're funny. And then said, don't work every deal as hard as you can. Don't let anyone go without giving them a price and we'll shut the door, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward, I had always had this dream about that I believe that I've created something that's a mental model to be able to teach people to sell the way that people buy. So about transparency, it is you need to understand what stage your customer is at in their actual mind versus what stage they're telling you at, right? That difference between the observable truth and what you understand as a car person, what the ground truth is. I said that to say that how the heck am I going to manifest something like that? I was just using it to train salespeople and to train salespeople to be closers. Big difference between closing your deal and closing someone else's deal. Right?
Yes.
So I'd always toyed around with that. And then all of a sudden, my other partner, Brent, posted something about ChatGPT. Now, this is a week after I'd heard of ChatGPT because Elon Musk, it came out of his mouth on some interview. And I'm like, well, what's that? And I commented on a Facebook post, hey, I want to build a high-ticket sales model for ChatGPT. Andrew scrolled past, saw the comment, remembered me. We had stayed in touch these years. Scrolled back up. 5 days later, the 3 of us had a company. That's how it started. But then how to figure out what to do next, that's where Fitzgerald came in.
So I guess one thing you brought up was, that you're a manager, and we work deals. We go through this, etc. The one question I know every single person in the car business is asking is, first of all, when we both started in the car business, Badgie, even when you started, there used to be a GM, a GSM, couple used car manager. If you did more than 75 or 80, there might have been two. One was an appraiser and get cars ready once. You had two F&I guys with a backup. Today we run really lean with AI in your tool. You had said something. I don't remember if it was on a podcast or to me in conversation, but I think you think like I do. I think that your tool Zenzio is an outstanding tool, best tool I've ever used. Does everything you want it to do, but I think it just works like a Michael Jordan. It makes one guy better. The guy who's good makes him great. Guy who's great makes him fantastic. Guy who's fantastic's an all-star. Can you tell me what you think the AI, because you mentioned something to me and I'm too stupid to understand how you meant, so I want you to explain again. Mm-hmm. How is AI going to affect all these BDC people going forward? Mm-hmm. So they're not, because right now it's hitting like a tidal wave. Everybody's talking AI and they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. So explain, please, from an expert.
Listen, the important thing that you need to know about AI is it's not what it is, but what it does. It's what benefit that you get from it. And then the simplest thing that car people need to understand about AI is that the most important thing that ever happens between your shoppers and your dealership is what? It's when your shopper asks a question.
Right.
That's it. If you can get your customers to actually pay attention to you enough, and paying attention is getting tougher to get out of customers. If they actually ask a question, that is where your dealership lives, right there. So as the general sales manager, I've got all these different reports, things like that. I'm always looking at my second dealership, which is my website. And I'm sitting down with my Cox rep, Betsy, I think her name was, and going over all the reports. And she's showing me that I'm getting 2% of lead form submissions from what they're counting as unique visitors on the site. I'm like, 2%? Well, we got to do something about that. I need more leads. And anybody can buy leads. That's not where the skill comes in, Mm-hmm. And so the idea was, I don't believe that live chat is what customers actually want, and we've all got our own stories about it, but live chat doesn't work in the dealership. They don't work in the car business. You said something a little bit about that. So they do this 3 rules that you'll find and even in some AI products today. They deflect the question, defer to the salesperson, and ask for your name and contact information over and over and over. Me, the way that I see things, that's an interactive lead form. It's not actually answering my question. And if I asked you a question, don't tell me that I got to get an answer later. And who knows when that'll be. Who knows who's going to answer the question. Who knows whether or not that I even get touched in. And so that's what led to ISA. I wanted to build an AI sales associate, something much more ambitious than AI chat. And it started with knowing what to say, when to say, how to say it, and why. And that started with everything about the dealership that was an approved topic. Everything about the incentives, everything about the products, and all comprehensive product knowledge. I figured I'd start something simple like that. Oh my God, what did I get myself into? I can keep going for another hour, but
no, it's okay. So I guess the BDC right now, as far as the AI, would you recommend to dealers today to really have an AI department? I mean, not just a BDC, but somebody to handle all, because there's so many AI tools that do so many different things, right? You need somebody who understands all these. Right now, they have one guy who's been handling, signing up vendors, right? And he's handling leads coming in, and that's what he does. All of a sudden, he's in charge of AI. Well, how's that work going forward?
Well, the answer is nobody knows. And if somebody tells you that they know, they're lying, right? And they're not the person to ask the question. However, there are definitely better questions to ask, and better things to figure out what you really want. Let me tell you more about that. I'm being kind of vague. Start back at the BDC. Baji, you said that you're in the BDC, right?
Yeah.
Well, the BDC is home base for questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the highest number of volume, highest number of opportunities. And along those leads, you have everything from ghost, to they put a lead in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So what the BDC is the opportunity to be able to engage customers on their own terms, find out where they're at, and not to sell them a car, not necessarily in 2026 to get them in. Remember those old days? Just get them in, just get them in, just get them in. They're looking for the answer to that question. Doesn't mean you don't try, but you need to understand that everything valuable happens in steps, stages. So when it comes to the BDC, you need to figure out, how do I use AI to fix my problems and amplify what we do well? So with AI for the BDC, you have choices to make, whether or not that it's instant lead response 24/7 like ISA, or whether or not that it's just overnight, and whether or not that overnight, what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to have a friendly voice that says, when can I bring you in for a test drive? Or are you trying to have deep conversations? To get to the answer to your question, that AI is changing so fast that dealers truly can't afford to let their AI plan be the product that they plan to buy and use. As an AI vendor, I'll tell you why. It's because my job as an AI vendor is to sell you what I've got. My job as an AI vendor is to tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's going to kiss you on the cheek and make your bed twice a day, right? That's not the plan for dealers. Just like if I was selling a computer, you need an internet plan, not a computer plan. Because AI is changing so fast. And here's a little secret that some software vendors like me don't really want you to know, is that you're not beholden to software vendors as much as you were, as long as you make the right plan. And that all starts with this. AI is bigger than a product. AI is bigger than a person. AI needs a plan to be able to determine that just because you can buy something, and just because there's another, I think what I say, 40 AI vendors at NADA, your plan is to have, if I'm a dealer or a general manager or a platform director or all the way at the top of one of the publicly traded companies, my plan is to have someone whose only job is AI. You need someone who is the AI guru, that is the AI expert, just like we couldn't operate without our IT guy now. At Fitzgerald, we call him Houston. Houston, we have a problem, right? Well, AI takes so much effort, so much curiosity, and so much time just to stay at what's on the cutting edge. I told you in the podcast prep when you called me some days ago that I actually spend 2 hours of my day just catching up on AI and then doing something about it. So I say that to say that we've never seen anything like AI before, and it requires understanding, wow, we've seen a lot of things happen in 2 years. I say that your plan is, if you're going to buy your first or even your second AI product at NADA, you've started too late. Yeah. Because here's what's going to happen, right? You're going to buy a product, and if you got 4 stores, you're going to roll them all out for at one time?
No.
Usually they stagger, right? And so if you're going to plan to try and figure out what your AI plan is through one product and take a look at it in 6 months, that is the wrong plan. Because AI is more important to your dealership, more important to your future, your business, than one vendor or one product should be.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying, to say at least. I would have 100 dealers. Did I just lose everything?
No, you're good.
Hold
you're
on.
Here.
Dave. All right. You just disappeared on me. Sorry about that. So we'd have NADA and all the dealers would come on. They'd make all these decisions. Do you guys hear a ringing though? Is there a bell going off on your guys' end?
No.
Okay. I'm not going to worry about it because there's one happening here. I don't know where. Sorry about that. Anyhow, go to NADA. They pick out all the products. They come back, and all of a sudden, like you said, you got the 20-store group, a 70-store group. They're installing a product. Well, this is 3 years ago, and they're still canceling before they get to like the 7th, 8th store because something new has come out already. So that's why I say today, you need to have an actual department head that handles this is a whole new department on its own to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not your BDC department anymore. It's as valuable as, like you said, the IT guy, but it's a different model because you can't take the place of the BDC people. I don't think ever. Maybe less of them. You can have less. I'm going to go with that. But I don't believe you ever have, as good as ASA was and is and how it works. I still think you need somebody when they say, well, I'm looking for a car for $5,000 and I tell you, well, here, I've got these 3, right? That's what happens, correct? They give them an idea of the cheapest cars they got. Mm-hmm. Where when you have that person get on, like a Badgie, who to me is like the best BDC guys I've ever had work for me. That is what you need still today. And all the people I talk to are like in such a panic that BDC is going to go to the wayside. But dealers are kind of putting that scare tactic out there because they're trying new products and canceling people at the same time, which I don't think they realize how fast the tool's moving.
They can't. They're too busy. They're too busy. And you wait, even the best and most diligent and disciplined and the real thinkers and planners in this business, they wake up every day and then the day happens to them and it laughs. It's like, oh, John, you had such a great plan today. Baji, I know that you were planning on doing this, but let me show you what kind of chaos. And that's just the chaos that retail. We all know that's part of the if you know game, right? When it comes to the car business. I said that to say that because of that, AI is so important that you don't need a department. You just need one person that you trust that is making AI and AI integration in the dealership and in all departments, back end and front end, that you can go to as someone whose job it is to know what AI is doing, what your AI that you've purchased or whatever you've decided to do with a vendor, where the gaps are to be able to get AI to fix problems first. What are the problems that are self-inflicted and how expensive are those? We need to figure out that. And AI makes that gap happen when you have the right plan. And that plan requires an executor who's going to make it happen. And that's where the AI person that you designate becomes so valuable because it's a seed for everything that is going to make a difference in your business in the next year or two. Because the game will be won by those not that work the hardest, but that are the most effective in efficiency. And that comes not from trying to cut costs. Start with cutting problems. Start with just doing the things that you know you're supposed to do that always break down in a process. I'll land this plane I'm flying here by saying, in the BDC, Baji, you know that there are things that are easy to count metrics that make a difference to your performance. Their lead response time. Cox has the best data on that. Their lead response quality. And then when the customer asks a question, what is the plan to answer that question and then ask the right question so that you're starting a valuable dialogue. If you focus on just that, the rest is going to come into play, and you don't need to worry about whether or not that it's scheduling service appointments, how many languages it speaks, whether or not that it's going to set an appointment every time that it talks to it. Just fix what's already broken in practically every dealership, and then a plan to just take that next step to try and get it to do more. So it can still happen fast, but we focus on the wrong things by trying to get AI to do all of the things all of the time. When even if it can, and very few can, that's not what you should be trying to do. How do you get effective? And it's by getting efficient, making the most out of every opportunity. That's not new. that just was only addressed by building a team, hiring right, training and managing them right. That's still fundamentals for the car business. But it's not as easy as it is to say, is it?
No.
AI is your safety net for that.
Yeah.
I had a couple questions. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dad. Ask a couple.
How would someone make that transition? Where do you go get this knowledge? Like if I wanted, I'm a BDC manager. How would someone go getting that education to make that transition or to add that skill set of being an AI engineer?
Well, it's almost the same question I was going to ask her, because your new company's now is late, which is, I'm guessing you're going to come out to dealers and kind of set this stage for them and set all this up, what they need to get this department going. Can you come in as now is late, show them how to get the right stuff together for AI, and then train a guy like Badgie to do the right thing and then move on?
So the short answer is this. Listen, Zenzio and ISA were my first love, and I can tell you without question that I won't be at NADA this year. You'll have 40 different vendors. I will take the Blind Pepsi Challenge on conversational quality, skill, and talent with ISA against anyone blind. However, chat does not make your dealership win or lose.
No.
So if you want the best AI chat and you want to put that AI chat in every message in your BDC, talk to me about ISA for Zenzio. And if you're drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid I'm selling when it comes to how much more important that AI is than a product, then that's where I come in. Because here's the one thing that I feel confident in stating. When you take 30 years of foxhole tested lessons and what is happening in the last 3 years to what's going to happen in the future on AI, and you put those there together, if someone's more qualified for that right now, I'd love to meet them so I could partner or so I could learn something. But yes, could I come into a BDC, especially one that's using AI, and help you understand where the levers are to get more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff? That's what I'm specializing in, because I'm the type of salesperson that would rather sell you what you need instead of what I have, even though what I said about the product earlier.
Okay, got it.
I had a question on the product itself. Now, can you, like, let's say, for example, negotiation, like if it's interacting with someone, can it negotiate? Like the guy's like, you know what, what's your best price? Or I think this price is too high. Can that AI product do that? Can you train it to do that? Or does it deflect?
Short answer is ISA can be trained to do anything you want her to do. And when I say be trained, it's because I would train ISA to be able to do anything you want to. But we got to ask the question, are you asking, can she handle objections or can she negotiate? Because they are two different things, right?
Yeah.
If you want her to negotiate, she has the horsepower to be able to do that. I have the horsepower to be able to try and get a number that they would buy the car if you could get it approved. The old if I could, would you? She can definitely do if I could, would you? She can definitely do other than this. Is there any other reason? But what you're really asking is, can she handle objections? And the short answer to that is yeah, and quite frankly, better than I can. Because AI is that kind of amplifier. And I'm serious. I'll give you an example. On my website right now is a case study from a first-time buyer. She is 20 years old. She's out of state. She has no credit, no cosigner. She wants to do $500 down, and guess what kind of payment she's looking for, guys?
$250.
Right. Well, now and today, she actually realistically started at $3. Right. Well, here's what happened, Baji. She asked ISA questions for an hour and a half. ISA, like John said, is very adept at answering the question and justifying a reason for you to give your contact information by following two rules. One, she never asked for contact information twice the same way. And two, she never asked for contact information because she can't do something. She asked for contact information because they can do something, but it's important to get you a price that's accurate, competitive, and correct, right? So what Uriah did is come back to ISA the next day after an hour and a half of conversation. And Zenzio has a persistent memory with Isa. So when she comes back, Isa knows who she is, picks right back up. She knows everything they've talked about, every question that she's answered. And at this point, Isa now has a car that she's landed on, a 22 Chevy Malibu. And now Uriah is talking about that she's from out of state and she's really worried about getting approved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward 4 sessions over 7 days, 8.5 hours of conversation. Isa answers 49 questions and gets the answers to 36. By the time that Uriah, who never actually gave up her name, second session gave up her email, and then showed up with an appointment, with W-2s, with her paycheck stubs, 5 references, showed up with insurance on that car, and understanding that she needed to fill out a formal credit app to get an approval. But Isa had led her to the flexible decision of, you need to be thinking much higher in your payment, and you need to resource as much money down as you possibly can. That ended up being started at 300, got delivered at 415, started at 0 down, 500, ended up putting $4,500 down in order to take delivery. So I ask you, Baji, when you take that phone up and the customer won't give you her name, but she says she's 20 years old and that she has no credit and no down payment, she doesn't have a cosigner, and she's out of state and wants to come in and buy a car, how long does that phone up last?
Not very long.
I won't put you too much on the spot, but you're going to do your best to make chicken salad out of, let's say, chicken.
Yeah.
Right?
You can say that.
Here's the skinny on it, Badgie. There's one thing about ISA, and I'm a big fan of AI in the BDC and in service. They work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They never call in sick. I don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, waking up on the wrong side of the bed. They will work relentlessly on a lead without me chasing them around to do it. So going forward, if you're not like you, Badgie, you're relentless. You're that 2 out of 10. I told you, you're really good at what you do. But
I'm a human, so I go through those. I've had bad days. I've had frustration.
But as you're going forward,
and you can't do it all. You can't do it.
And guys you know that, because you're going to see ISA make deals that you would have, because we all do it. You remember we used to keep a mirror on our desk back in the 80s. You had a mirror on your desk because the owner told you, customer can see when you're being a jag-off or when you're smiling. So ISA is going to know to keep working that deal to get to that point. And it's just going to make us better, because now you're going to say, damn, that customer that would have said I was 20 with no credit and et cetera, I would have probably pushed to the wayside, and ISA stayed with it and made a deal. Now I'm going to make myself better. It's going to turn you from the greatest, average to better. But you got to want to do it too. You got to be there every day. You got to do what you do. That's what ISA will force these BDCs to do.
And there's a trend now. There's a lot of people, because of if they put their phone number in, they're going to get bombarded with a bunch of calls, stupid calls for no reason. And so what now people are doing is they're just going in email only, and it's just the email back and forth.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see where a tool like that can, be engaging into,
And there's no grammar issues either. They speak. They put perfect emails.
In fact, sometimes if I know I'm talking to, you have some people email only, and they don't want to get phone calls, and if I can tell that they're of a higher caliber potential client, what do? I go to ChatGPT or Perplexity and type it in, because I want to make sure there's no grammar mistakes. I want to make sure I don't sound like an idiot, because I'm dealing with that kind of prospective client. Or if they have a concern, or if they're upset with something, I say, how should I respond to this? And I put it into there. So
you're actually way ahead of most people, and I can see why John works with you.
But I'm also, like I said, I'm a human. I go through bad days. I go in sometimes sick. Or you going, you got to deal with that.
Think of Isa as your best backup singer. Right?
Yeah.
You know, a backup singer and a warm-up act. She's going to go and talk to people, get the crowd all warmed up or whatever, and also be there if you got a cough, you know, or hop off stage for just a second.
And I'm sure you can train it. It can go, because obviously every day you're adding and adding to the leads coming in. But how about historical stuff? How about, you know, people who were in for service? You know, maybe they had a bill that's $5,000, and you know who's reaching out to them to say, you know what, your $5,000 bill, why not think about trading that in? Or maybe people, you know, what I find really interesting is, I know we have an autoresponder that does it, a happy birthday card. You know, they get a happy birthday card. They go, oh, thank you so much. You thought of me on my birthday. I go,
now you're hitting the difference in why there's so many vendors at NADA this year. And so let's take a look at what I'm talking about and what AI is and what that kind of AI and those kind of processes are. First, there's conversational AI, and then there's data analytics AI, right? Like Dwayne, our mutual friend, John, told me that Cox is actually a data company. Right? And so the data is, how do you know whose birthday it is? How do you know if they're a $5,000 tank, but now all of a sudden the EV that you sell now has a $50,000 rebate on it or something like that, and you're going to be giving them a card and cutting them a check? How do you know? Well, that's where data analytics comes in. So there's, how do you find out what happens when you talk to them, and then how do you deploy it? Well, how do you find out and how do you deploy it is what you're going to find across almost all of the 40 vendors that are at NADA. By the way, I have a list and some research for it if someone wanted a pre-shopping list about, okay, so how do I break down into what Lane just said? What's conversational, what's data analytics, and what's deployment? Right? So we stayed at Zenzio away from data analytics and did the deployment issue down to this. Zenzio doesn't want to take over your entire BDC process. What Zenzio does is help you with what that email looks like. Is it relevant to the lead? And in every message, text message, and email is a tailored ISA that is ready to talk with your customer 24/7 in 97 different languages about any approved topic. Well, what's approved? That's where the training and the onboarding comes in. So Zenzio focuses on where the rubber meets the road. You can keep your entire process as it is right now, but just add ISA to your email signature. You can keep your entire process as it is right now, but if you add a copy to ISA of the inbound lead, now you've got a link that can go in the outbound lead, into which that ISA now wants to talk to that person about that lead, about what they want to talk about, and any improved product. So it's like putting an AI sales associate on your website and everywhere your message goes. That's what Zenzio does. And you'll notice that's not about deployment or about data analytics. It's about calling in a special teams player at the time that you want to put it in, or every time based on these rules and conditions. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Basically, yeah. That's it. And that's, I think that's the direction that a dealer should take, is to look at it, what best fits its store. Some of these, small stores in, Ocala, Florida, where they got, 60 cars a month, they can get away with just the Zenzio tool. Places in Chicagoland, Zenzio's just going to make you better, help you more, answer nights, answer weekends. How many times do you answer stuff just to tell them you'll let them know on Monday or Tuesday?
Well, like you mentioned, overnight, I know, especially where I work, they use the whatever chat bots, or I think it's a GM product where all they do is just gather the information, and they said someone will get back to you, in the morning and during normal business hours, and then it's waiting for me, waiting for me in the morning. And they're saying that's the AI chat, which whatever, and it just gathers the information. It's not doing any, because obviously they have no idea. They're not in the store. And I think so something like this that can kind of like preset it up for you, so that and people appreciate that. People appreciate talking to, or I can say interacting with, with someone who knows what they're talking about,
Yeah. I mean, I think
they tell you that they're AI at Fitzgerald, right? Doesn't it come right out?
That was a big choice that I insisted on when I started it. Because there's a lot of different opinions, a lot of different vendors will tell you anything else.
I like that approach.
Right, especially in 2026. At the end of the day, quite frankly, I could train ISA to say and have a couple of customers who want to make sure that they pretend that it's a very specific person with a very specific name, but she will not break the rule of this. Are you AI? She will say, I'm AI, and then move on, right? And but there's AI greeters, and there's AI lead developers, and there's AI sales associates, right? An AI greeter can say, oh, great. Well, your waiter will be right out. Here's some bread. Here's some water, right? And you keep them chilled out until the waiter comes in with the menu. In this case, that would be you, Bachi, right? Or you can have a very deep conversation like I talked about with ISA, or at 2:30 in the morning. Not everybody keeps business hours, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody is putting in a lead and they get back a response that is tailored to them within 2 minutes, and on their text message there's a link that says, by the way, if you want to talk about it, you can. You click that link, it takes the customer directly to your website. Well, wait a second. They submitted a lead on cars.com. They've never been on my website. Well, ISA greets them, and other AIs can as well, in the context at the car. And now that can go as long and as far as the customer wants to go, as long as you're clear about what you want, about where the guardrails and approved topics are. So fully conversational AI is what I and my partners at Zenzio built, that can handle any level of conversation, all the way down to the details that I didn't share about Uriah, who asked about registration. How do I get my plate? What are the taxes going to be? Do you have any fees? Things like, can I buy my lease at the end? Can I put my daughter on the lease? She's 17. Can she go on the registration even if she isn't on the contract? These are the kinds of questions that I was maniacal enough to teach ISA how to be able to answer, and most people don't, because that's not what you actually want. But I wanted it, and it turns out that customers want it. So Baji, I think you'd be really interested in what you could actually do with AI. So
on that note, because we're running at 50 minutes here, people just don't really listen to us longer than that. I'm going to just tell everybody who's listening, you're going to NADA, I guess there's 40 because Lane told me, I don't know. This is the best product out there when it comes to talking about your inventory and your customer and putting the two together, bar none, in my opinion. And don't forget, I'm still in the car business and I'm still playing with different toys where I'm at. We've played with a bunch. I still interact with a whole bunch. This is still by far the best one. So if you want to get a hold of Lane at Zenzio, it's Lane at Zenzio.com, right?
Lane at Zenzio.com. If you want to talk about what you really want to do in the car business and whether or not you should buy A, B, or C or XYZ vendor, and you're looking for someone that has the chops to try and make that happen for you, and 30 years of battle tested, and at the same time understands what's best for you as opposed to just that product or that feature, that's where you can reach me at lane@nowislate.com.
I'm gonna post all of your details in the description below, so anyone watching, if you guys want to reach out directly to Lane, you'll be able to do so. We'll put everything, like I said, in the description below, so you can reach out to him and he can help you out.
Yeah. On my site is James, my AI assistant for Now Is Late. James has just finished his training on all of the vendors at NADA that you might want to ask about.
That's great.
That's very good.
Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it. I think you'll be on again as because it's moving fast and furious. So again, thank you. And look forward to talking to you again.
I'd love to come back. I've got another 3 episodes of stuff we haven't even.
I was gonna say we have. This was really, really mind-blowing, to be honest with you, with the stuff I learned. So I'm glad you were on, and we'll definitely have some more shows in the future with you on. You can be a regular AI contributor to where things go. And
Don't
again,
you me is a good time, as my dad used to say.
Yeah, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. We also want to thank Zenzio is a sponsor of ours, and also Now Is Late. We want to thank you for that as well. And also Huck, you can't forget Huck. Yep. And we just thank you guys again for tuning in. You can go to our website up above, find out what's new going on, or how to download us on all your favorite platforms. But we thank you again for joining us, and I know this was great. And we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, gentlemen.
See you, Badgie.
Forward to talking. Badgie, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.